Hello, welcome back to the podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us, and this podcast is going to be a very special one because it's not just about understanding the social sector, but it's also about helping you build a career in it. So whether you are a student, an early professional, or someone trying to find direction in development studies, this conversation is designed as a guidebook for you. And to help us navigate this journey, we have with us someone whose work sits at the powerful intersection of indigenous knowledge, rural transformation, and international social policy. So Dr. Koustab Majumdar is an academic and researcher deeply committed to understanding the survival strategies and well-being of marginalized community. He currently serves as an assistant regional director at IGNOU. It's in Siliguri, and he's also an associate fellow at the Harriet Tubman Institute of York, which is in Canada. So his academic journey is truly inspiring and global. He was awarded the prestigious Taiwan Fellowship in 2023, where he conducted postdoctoral research on comparative indigenous social welfare policy. He has completed his MPhil from the Tata Institute of Social Science and holds a PhD in Agriculture, Rural and Tribal Development. He is also a prolific author and editor, best known for his book Indigenization Discourse in Social Work, International Perspective, where he challenges conventional Western framework and advocates for development rooted in indigenous knowledge system. His research brings forward voices from the ground, from documenting the customary practices of tribal communities like the Asoria, Paharia and Santhal tribes, to investigating the health impacts of uranium mining in Jadugoda, and understanding how smallholder farmers struggle to adapt to climate change. So beyond research, he actively engages with global platforms like the Development Studies Association and UNESCO Inclusive Policy Lab, contributing to the international conversation on social development. Koustab, it's truly an honor to have you with us today, and not just to understand your journey, but to help our listeners find clarity, direction, and purpose in their own career in the social sector. Before we start, I just wanted to start it with one of my very first experiences coming to this sector, starting my development studies journey. I still remember sitting in the classroom. You were the professor, you were teaching us, and the first thing I got to learn from you is how to pronunciate the word development. So it's not development, it's development. So that's what you told us, and that's how my journey began. So very honored to host you today. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you. I am also it's a pleasure to be in this podcast. Sir. And good to see you there from Harkemberry to London. It has been an inspirational journey for many of the young scholars and the young people.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time and coming here to the podcast. So, first of all, to start off, I would love you to take us through your journey from your early days as a student to where you are today. What shaped your path into social development? If you can brief us your journey, that would be amazing, sir.
Sure. So, looking back to my class 12, when I was in class 12, so I was not so much focused on study. So, basically, I belong to a teaching family. For me, my father and mother, both of them belong to a teaching profession. So from that side, I got an inspiration to go for a teaching. But I was not sure about that I will go for this rural development, because rural development was a completely new course for me. And then I got admission in Ramkrishna Mission Vivekananda University, because then it was Ramkrishna Mission Vivekananda University. So I got this program and I joined this. So from the first year, I was keen to I had an interest to join PhD, because I had always dreamed to go for research and everything. So then I completed my master's in University of Kalyan, it is in West Bengal. So I was supposed to go for a PhD, but then I chose to Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and then I went there and do some research for another 2 years for the MPhil degree. And then I thought that I should go for right now. I can go for the another research. I went to Ramkrishna Vivekananda University again for my PhD. So then I got the opportunity to all of my the old faculty members and the most importantly my mentors. Because a mentor is has a great role to shape your career and whatever your vision you have. There I got Dr. Dipankar Chatterjee as my mentor. So he is an amazing person as an individual. So he was very supportive, because until unless without his support, I'm nothing. So then, but you know that there each and every institution had a lot of loopholes and lot of problems there. But what I imagine that definitely we had a lot of problems. There are some infrastructure problems and a lot of other things. But what I imagined into myself that I should go beyond that. If I focus into my problems that I do not have access to this thing, I did not complain to myself. Since the first day, I was serious to my study, and I visualized myself to go out beyond this India and other thing. So from the first day I started my career, I looked my career to that way. So during my PhD, I can recall that in 2019, it was in July. So I got a scholarship from Chulalongkorn University. That was a 14 days program along with a complete scholarship. So I went there and I gathered a lot of experiences from there. It was a truly an inspirational journey for me because I interacted with other scholars. And the good part is that only the 24 scholars were selected for this program. It was quite competitive one.
Okay.
So from there I got a tremendous platform for the academic journey. And so then I completed my PhD and I started also my edited book project because I did not submit my PhD thesis when I started my edited book project. So what the edited book projects offers you, that's a networking. So networking is a very important issue because edited books start when you start edited book project, you will first build your network. For example, I can recall that edited book project. So more than I think 1,000 email I sent to all over the world, and within those 1,000 emails, I got only 25 responses. There are many people who commented on many negative things that I wasn't like an early career scholar, so how could I trust you? So everything. So, but however, it was God's plan. So, and one of the another mentor was Dr. Rajendra Begati, who has been my inspiration in every moment. Dr. Rajendra Begati is presently working in Central University of Kerala in the social work department. So he supported me a lot. So from that journey, I completed my edited book project. So then another one, then I thought that, okay, so now I should go for another year for my postdoc. So I started applying. But fortunately, I got another amazing person, that is my postdoctoral advisor, Professor Chuang. He is also another amazing person, a very supportive person. So, so then he only one message, he told that.
Where is he from, sir?
He is from Taiwan. He is from Taiwan, National Young Chiaotang University. So then I went for I simply applied. So I did not think about that whether I will get it or not. Because this Taiwan fellowship is one of the most prestigious and competitive one.
Right.
So I prepared accordingly. And I went for some indigenous comparative social welfare policy. And I proudly say that it is for the first time at the international level. It was the first study that I have conducted on social welfare policy from an indigenous perspective, because I did not find any kind of such study at a very broad level when comparing
two countries,
two nations. Yes. So I think that worked basically. So I was very fortunate enough to have this fellowship. So I went there and spent my another 6 months because I was supposed to go for that 1 year. Because I can recall that time the COVID time has just ended and we were just supposed to go for the physical interview started. I was thinking that if I will go there for another year, so there were some interviews. So I will not be able to attend. So then I reduced my tenure and I went there for another 6 months. So I completed and I came back to India. So then a lot of interviews I appeared in IIT. I can recall that IIT Kharagpur, I appeared IIT Mandi, but nowhere means obviously it is nowhere I got selected. But unfortunately, I appeared for this interview, this IGNOU Assistant Regional Director interview. I did not expect it because it is a completely academic come administration. So I was not then so much interested. So I was thinking that should I go or not? Should I go or not? So then my supervisor, Dr. Dipankar sir, told me that okay, let's go for it. Let's go for it and do well in your interview and let's see what happens. So then I went for the interview and fortunately I was selected, and then I recently joined here.
That's truly amazing, sir. You have briefed about your journey very well, and we can definitely see Dr. Dipankar Chatterjee in most of your research work. So can say like he's been your constant motivator and collaborator. So you mentioned that you come from a teaching background. Your family has been into teaching. What keeps you motivated, and what made you decide that this is the career path you wanted to choose? You wanted to make your career in social sector, in the academia.
Honestly speaking, I did not think about rural development because when I was in class 12, so I was supposed to go for two subjects. One is language, that is my favorite subject is Bengali. Another was is biochemistry. But somehow I did not get into my favorite college or university. So then I got admission into Ramakrishna Vivekananda University. But what inspired me during the fieldwork, because you can recall that so we had a lot of fieldwork interaction with the people and with the other faculty members who used to go there.
Right.
So from that side, I started growing my interest in teaching. And most importantly, that what I believe that teaching is a such kind of noble profession where you can teach, not only teach, you can shape others' careers, you can build others' career, you can mentor, you can only interact with other people. So that was a basic fundamental way of inspiration for me to come in this sector.
Thank you, sir. And that's what we are also doing in Development Wala. We are trying to help people navigate through their career. So yeah, like whether you are in academia or you are in the working environment, you're gonna have to contribute to the society. And sir, a lot of student has the doubt, like since you have reached up to the outmost level we can think of in academia, was there ever a phase where where you felt confused about your career direction, like many students do today?
Absolutely. Even I can honestly speaking, if you can see the 10 pages of success, another 100 or 200 pages of unsuccessful journey have already been saved in these pages, because I just told you that I failed in lot of interviews. I can recall that during my masters, after completing my masters, I applied for a PhD program in a very famous university for PhD program, and I got a rejection from that side too. But it was not an great issue, because failure is a part of life, because it will teach you where you need to strengthen yourself, because it is a reality. You need to accept. So always, even in my classroom, I always do teach my student that in your professional journey, if you encounter any kind of failure, to take it as a professional way, not in a personal way, because it is a profession. You may get failed. You may not expect the result that you have imagined or that you can expect, but you can also will have that opportunity to rectify yourself. So it is a way that I told you that I sent more than 1,000 emails to the people across the world for my first Harriet book project.
Right.
So that is where I started. But I got so many rejection from that side that I will not be able to contribute, or I do not have time to manage, or there was some trust issue, because it's a general, because I belong to a very early career scholar and I did not have even PhD in that time. So how could you trust anyone who belongs to who just have finished his PhD or who belongs to an early career scholar? So from their side, a mentor works. The mentor role is important. How your mentor motivates you and how it works. So that side. So failure is a part of life. What I believe is that failure is something that will empower you, that will strengthen you, because we in the social media, in the digital platform, we only showcase our success.
Yeah. True.
But no one knows that with one success, how many failure stories have been hidden so far. So that is not been showcased. So that is the thing. So it is a part of life, and I always do believe that failure is my professional life. Failure is like a professional journey. So it is not my personal. It is a professional. You may not like or you may like, but it doesn't matter that if there will be another person who may like it,
yes,
or who may not like it. So it depends, because everyone is not same in our society. So it depends. So that is the thing, that the way I believe.
Right. So what are the common mistakes you see students make in their early careers? Because you have been a student over a decade, I believe. I think you still count yourself as a student, because I count myself as a student, a lifelong learner.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. So because you have also taught students in the classroom, you as yourself had a lot of experience being a student. What are the common mistakes you see students make in their early careers today?
The important point is that you should have a clear vision for your future, that what I will do, how should I visualize to myself. The power of dream. The power of dream has it. The power of dream is something about how would you like to visualize yourself. The first thing is that the student will means are not sincere enough about their study, about their visualization, means how they are willing to see themselves. And secondly is that they used to engage in many things. For example, instead of doing one thing, they are engaging in many things. And so right now, and in this digital era, we can see that students often spending their time to the social medias and everything, but we often tell students that you should invest your times in those skills that you wanted to grow in yourself. So that is the thing. So first thing, and the secondly is that the time management is a very important thing, because we often do not know what I will do in the early morning, what I will do in the next afternoon.
Right.
So that is time management is a very important thing that students do not used to do the time management. So these two things I think is important for each and every student.
Okay. Sir, when we sit in the classroom, learn different theories, we often believe that like at the end of the day, we have to work for an organization in the field, and maybe this theory will not be that much useful. Why do I learn Karl Marx? Why should I got to learn about the invisible hand theory or something else? Like this kind of a doubt always comes in the mind, like what could be the use of it on the ground? Because you have taught practice PRA tools. That's one of the very important tool in social sector. But apart from that, how important it is to learn the theories inside the four walls of a classroom and also got to practice in the ground in whatever work you are doing. How important it is?
So that's a very important part because we often used to have a question like that: how we apply this kind of theory? Because theory strengthens you. Because theories are such kind of concept that will help you to think. That will help you to think. Because when you are going for a practical or a practical science, how will you think if you do not understand the perspective? So here the perspective is very important because it helps you to develop your perspective. So how would you imagine yourself if you do not know the theoretical part, that how the community organization works? There are a lot of theories. Theories is nothing but an assumption that we used to read and we used to explain something. So that is important. That will not only strengthen you, but it will means shape your ideology, shape your philosophy and everything. So that is important thing. Until unless you will not read theories, you will not go through the existing concepts. So you cannot broaden your ideas. So each and every step you need some guidelines. You will need means a path, a road. So that is the base of the theory. That will help you to imagine. That will help you to go ahead, to move ahead of that. So that is why I believe that theories are very important from that perspective.
So generally, it gives you a direction.
Exactly.
And you sort of get an understanding in order to engage with the people much better in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's shift this conversation towards something very practical, which is career building. And let's say if someone is currently pursuing graduation or post-graduation in social studies or development, what should they focus on right now? I know it's a very subjective question, but still, in general terms, what should be their main concern?
For example, I can give you some example from my perspective because the world is changing because based on the uncertainty, we are in the uncertain times because we have seen that the COVID period, and now we are going some uncertainty around the world, war and severe rate of poverty, etc. So what I think that because everyone is talking about right now the SDG. The Sustainable Development Goals we are talking about, which actually started in 2015 and going to finish by 2030. So what I am trying to right now, this is my area of research, that beyond SDG, what will be our social future looks like. For example, and I am developing a team, I am working with a team that we are thinking about the beyond SDG team. For example, in the science fiction or in any science movie, we can see that the scientists and other people are imagining what the future after 200 or 300 years, how it will looks like. So that is the thing. So how we can imagine ourselves after 100 years or after 200 years, how it will look from a social perspective, how our distribution will be, how we will interact ourselves, how the means the deliveries of the teaching learning process will be. So these are the areas of my research. So that is the key thing that people will look for, because right now you can see that there are a lot of research on sustainable development goals, but we should go beyond the sustainable development goals, because what I believe is that the sustainable development goals itself a contradictory subject. So when you're talking about the subject, it is my personal view, because when you are talking about the sustainable development goals and we are talking about the sustainable development, in that way we are talking about some Western concepts. So what I believe is that sustainable development goals is a such kind of ideology that is being produced by the West, and the action and the experiment, whatever it is, these are being experimented in the South for the developing
That's
countries.
absolutely true. It's pushed through the funding, and it's pushed to the government, to the local NGOs to implement those plans in the policies on the ground. And sir, also there's one thing, if you have to link it to the indigenous knowledge conservation, how important it becomes if we wanted to just map out our future in the social sector. How will it look like? How important is it to conserve the indigenous knowledge we have?
So, what I believe that indigenous knowledge is the key, because in the uncertain times you can see that the medicine doesn't work.
Right.
But where the medicine fails, there the indigenous knowledge and other thing will arise out. So that is why each and every country, they started recognizing the indigenous people as well as the indigenous knowledge, because there is a key sources of the surviving strategy. So how can we integrate into our learning system?
Mm-hmm.
So that is important. So as a part of that, we can integrate into our school education system, not only school education system, but also in our higher education system. That will be a key part, because indigenous, I told you that indigenous knowledge is an integrated part of our life. So each and every time we are using it knowingly or by unknowingly or in our semi-conscious mind, we are using it, but we do not know exactly what to use and how to use. Because if you will go to the even the sustainable development goals, you can see that why I call it as a Western perspective, because I'm little bit I used to critique to the sustainable development goals, because for me it is not a fascinated subjects about sustainable development goals and everything. So there is a politics within the sustainable development goals. So means when we're talking about the sustainable development goals, we used to see that sustainable development goals are being the concept is being produced by the West, and they are insisting us the concept along with the other so many concepts. But if we go to the sustainable development goals, you cannot see the one goal about the culture.
Mm-hmm.
The culture or indigenous perspective that means has not been addressed. So that is an important thing that we can include. And what I was talking about, that beyond sustainable development goals, we should go for this indigeneity and indigenous perspective that should be recognized until unless the future is in danger.
Right. So if some international organization, let's say, come in Eastern Belts, if I give an example, Jharkhand, and try to implement some project on the ground, most of the time the implementer or the professional who are working in the community end up just massaging the data and submitting a report in such a way that it hits the funders' criteria. And because they also know that in the ground implementing this 100% is not possible without changing the whole project. So that's always a challenge and a problem. Talking about this, you already mentioned how important theory is, but I wanted to ask you one more thing. So a lot of development professionals who are already practicing and working in the community, how can they become more sensitive, more aware, and more connected to the community they work with?
So the first thing is that leadership is the primary entry point for this one, because when we read Swami Vivekananda's philosophy, Swami Vivekananda was the first person who basically talked about the entry point, how we need to start to develop these people. So entry point is very important, and for this entry point, what I believe is that the leadership is the primary point. Because, for example, I can give you some examples. For example, we are delivering some kits or some inputs to that community, but I do not know if I'll go there and I will deliver those things to the people who are the needy people. I do not know, but the people themselves know. People themselves can identify who are the needy people or who are in need to have this facility. So we can choose any one leader from their side. So with whom we can contact first. So that should be the entry point for working with the community, for working with the people. So by developing leader from that particular community, so we should not insist something externally. Rather, we can prepare or we can develop the leader from their side, and through the leader we will reach out to the needy or the people who are in need for those things. So that is the thing. That's the primary thing, the leadership development.
So for the early career professionals, like what are some tools or methodologies or skills that every development professional should know?
So first thing is that you need to understand the demand of this current market, because the market is very important. When you analyze this market, you can see that AI is taking over the jobs and the data analysis. And so as an early career professional, I would definitely suggest for learning the AI, so how we can integrate the AI, but indeed through an ethical way, how we can integrate this to our day-to-day life, and for example in data analysis. This one is the first thing, and second is that communication. Communication is the what I can say that's not a primary, even more important than primary, but how you would like to communicate with others, because communication is nothing. Is not only about the talking and means talking with someone, but as I often used to say that formal communication as well as informal communication, that is verbal and non-verbal, both are important. So this is the second thing, the communication. And the third one is that as an early career student or the learner, whatever it is, you should understand the job market, what markets demand from me, what I will contribute, and how to contribute that. For example, I often see that students often specialize themselves in a particular position, and they themselves try to try to apply in different kinds of jobs. So what I believe that based on your specialization, based on your interest, you should apply into the job market, because the market is totally there's a kind of a variety of things are available. So based on that, you should not go with the flow, but better if you will prepare yourself with the demand of the market, based on the demand.
Right.
So that is the important thing.
Sir, now let's talk briefly about academia and research. So my friends, I have seen them, me as well, I'll count myself in it. So a lot of students write dissertations. Some of them do tremendously very well dissertation. So they thoroughly do the research and document something which has not even exist on papers, because they have done it in the rural kind of a setup, and they have uniquely identified out of their own lived experiences, and they do amazing dissertation. Maybe they lack direction in writing or publication. So could you tell us like what sort of things a student can do to publish their dissertation if they have never published anything before? It's the first time they have wanted to publish it, because they have invested their time in this dissertation. They have learned all the methods. They were not exposed to research methodologies before. This is the first time they came into the universities, done their bachelor's, and have done their dissertation. There's always a thought in their mind, maybe if I could able to publish it, but they never publish it because of lack of guidance. So as a student, if I ask you like what sort of suggestion you could give our students who have written their dissertation or are writing it and wanted to publish it somewhere for the very first time?
For the very first time, as I was also a student, but still now I am a student. I myself as a student. The most important part is that students often jump into the impact factor. What is a 5 or 6 or 7? I will go to the top tier journals. I will go for the very reputed journals. So this is a kind of trap. So it doesn't matter whether you will go for the very top tier journal, because you are an early career scholar. You need to learn these things you will gradually learn these things. But the important thing is that what you say, that publication is important, the knowledge contribution is important. So firstly, you as a part of the dissertation is a very very kind of is jotting down a kind of paper. So you need to cut it down based on the journal requirement. So very first thing I would like to suggest that target your journal first. To which journal would you like to submit? Go to the journal, aim and scope it, whether it is matching with the requirements or not. If it goes well with the journal's aim and scope, then prepare your dissertation based on the journal requirements. Because sometimes we see that even I do review a lot of papers, because I used to receive a lot of more than 5 to 6 papers each and every day, but I did not get my time, so often I need to reject those papers. But the important point is that this is the requirement of the journal, the knowledge. So what as a peer reviewer, what we would like to see in a paper, that mobility of the research, that how unique is your contribution, how interestingly and innovatively you put your arguments, you develop your arguments. So that is an important thing. And another point is that like the preparation of your article based on the journal requirements and how they put into the final stage. The presentation is very important. Because, for example, in dissertation, we used to write in a very general way, because often a dissertation looks like a thesis, like 150 or 120 pages, whereas we go for the journal publication, it should not beyond that 8,000 or maximum 10,000, you can see. Mm-hmm. So from that 35,000 words to 10,000 or 8,000 words is a very difficult thing. So you need just to cut down those words. And for the social sector, you just need to prepare your argument. You put your argument. That is the important thing. And one another important thing is that research gaps. So what is the research gaps? How means that is, as a peer reviewer, I always would like to see that what kind of research gaps you are filling out. So what kind of knowledge you are producing. So that is an important thing. And most often students often simply wanted to test themselves. For example, as a means early career researcher, I often did this one. I just put this paper and very lightly and put this journal to any other ABCD journal. And what is the impact of this kind of thing? That definitely you will get a rejection and it will demoralize you. You will get demotivated by this one. So what I think that after curating your paper, after preparing your paper, go for a peer review feedback. Do not immediately submit to a journal. Better to circulate this paper to your peer network, for example, your professor or your immediate friends or your senior, and have some feedback on that. It will help you a lot. For example, others' perspectives matter a lot. So that these perspectives will improve your it will shape your paper to a certain extent. So then you are ready for the
submission
of the journal preparation. But what another most important thing I would like to add is, if journal rejects your paper, so sometimes we often extremely demotivated ourselves that why they
maybe we lack potential in the paper we written.
So that
without ourselves.
Exactly. So that is not, because, for example, I can see that there are a lot of papers comes to me. The most important part is that research gaps, and secondly, even I just have told you that I often a lot of rejections I got into my paper, and so thing is that aim and objective is important. So, because, for example, in an XYZ research paper, you are submitting an ABC journal, because XYZ is a different alphabet and ABC is a different alphabet. So it is not matching each other.
Right.
So you need to put in an XYZ journal or a journal which covers the XYZ topics. So that is a private thing. So journal selection is very important.
So one very important question, like, how should we select a journal? How should we finalize, like, this is the way I have to search a journal which aligns with my research work?
So nowadays you can see that different kinds of journal finder, the AI mediated journal finder it is. You can simply put your abstract there and you can see that some suggestions on the journal. And based on that, you can simply shortlist those journals and go through each and every journal, because I always used to suggest my students that always go for the aim and scope of the journal, but it is not like that. You should only go for the aim and scope of the journal, but always strongly suggest you to go for some recent papers. So scroll the journals and do read the recent papers of what are the areas that have been covered so far journal in recent last in 1 or 2 years. So that will give an idea that these are some areas that the journals cover.
Sir, we also use a lot of references when we write our dissertation, be it in bachelor's or master's. Is it a good way to review those publications as well? Like, if I have given a paper reference, maybe if I can see which publication they have published their research from and try to, if it matches or aligns with my research work, try to submit the proposal there. Is it a way?
Review literature is what I believe that review of literature is the most fundamental part of any journal or you are preparing for research, because it will not only I am reviewing those existing literature, but I am taking the arguments forward. Based on that, what I will take forward. Based on that, I am building my concept. I am building my conceptual argument or the practical arguments, what I have observed during the field work or what I have observed from the secondary data. So that is why it is important. So it is not like simply going through that literature and simply citing those literature, but rather to have a critical look into that, how what kind of knowledge they have shared and what is the gaps in those knowledge, and how would you like to move forward with it.
Quickly, another question, sir. I think it's very much related and you have covered most part of it, but still I wanted to ask you, like, how did you publish your first research if you haven't published?
Yes. So what I can I can recall my first journey. You can see my Google Scholar and you can see that rural transformation in India, and that was basically my MPhil research. I can recall that journal very well because that's my first journal publication. And so after 2 years of MPhil research, so I submitted a journal, XYZ journal. That is a very reputed journal. So after review and everything, So they rejected my journal. They rejected my paper. So then I simultaneously went for 7 different journals, and I got rejection each and every time, each and every time. So there I, because it's a kind of conceptual and literature review based article. So then I got a contact from an Australian professor. How I got a connection. Very interesting story, because there was a conference in Australia. So I applied my paper. So for that my paper. So there we got connected each other. So there I came to know about that professor. So I shared the professor with the paper. So actually she guided me into that paper. She told me that it is not like that. It should be rectified. This thing should be removed and everything. So there, from that side, I learned a lot, because it was the first time I learned how to write a paper, how to shape it as a scholarly way, how we can write a paper. So then I went for the publication, and it took around another 1 year to publish it, because the peer review process and means back and forth approach, because it will return to you, then again comments, you are getting the comments, you are working on that, then it will go for the proofread and everything, so then it will be published. So it takes time.
Right. You have to have patience.
Yes.
So, can you tell us some of the tools that you use in your research? It could be for citation, it could be for literature finding, it could be for, let's say, writing a literature review, or helping your brain boost your thoughts. Like, what are some of the tools that you use? It could be Mendeley, it could be anything that you use.
For example, for data analysis, I use SPSS as a very simple tool.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, for the references, I use Mendeley. Mendeley is very good, it's very convinced, easy to use, student friendly and everything. Mm-hmm. And thirdly, for what is important is that writing. So, for example, how I write means how I used to write. For example, I write a paragraph, because it sometimes takes more than 2 hours to write a simple paragraph.
Right.
Then when I complete one paragraph, I completely leave it for another 1 to 2 days, and then come back again for after 2 days, because it takes time to reshuffle your thoughts and everything. Then I'm coming back to paragraphs, and I can see that this line should be rectified, or these lines can be changed, or the way of expression should be changed. So that is my primary style of working, because I do not believe that everyone should follow a strict way, because everyone has a different style. What I used to follow is a very famous technique, is a Pomodoro technique.
Yeah, heard about it.
Yes, Pomodoro technique that I used to follow. I can recall my PhD that I used to this Pomodoro technique. It is a very helpful, because you are writing for 20 or 25 minutes. Then you just simply take a rest and roaming around my campus, and then come back to my seat and then start writing. So it helps. So that is the thing, because each and every time you will read your paragraph, you will read your paper, you can see that each and every time you will rectify the same paragraph in a different times. So the more you read, the more the idea, the more rectification you will do.
Okay. Thank you, sir. One more thing, sir, people lack motivation just because they have worked for, let's say, 6 or 7 years in the field, or maybe they are in the academia, but still think about, should I do a PhD or not? So this always comes in mind of whether you are a student or you are a working professional. They think let's do a PhD, maybe I get a scope to increase my salary, because salary in social sector is always an issue for everyone. We know that it's not corporate-ish. And it doesn't matches with the industry standard. We always try to navigate our career in such a way that we go from one position to a level higher. And one of the areas people think about is doing a PhD, could be from India or abroad, so that their chances of getting a nice package, you can say the handsome package they always think of, may increase, or maybe the scope of the position they are holding at the moment, if they do a PhD and come back, it will help them to significantly jump into a higher position. So what are your thoughts in it? Should a person consider doing a PhD just for the sake of a higher salary or a higher position? And what are the challenges once you get into a PhD, how tiring it could be? And what are the back realities as a PhD student that people often don't know about, especially if you are working or you are a student? You don't know what commitment does it require to do a PhD. Can you give some inputs on it, sir?
This is a question that I would like to, or I would love to answer, because more than 100 questions in my emails or in my social platform, media platform, or in face-to-face mode. That's why I want to do PhD. That I want that PhD title. I want that doctor in my in front of my name. So it will then fascination to do a PhD that I will get a higher. So there's a lot of question, but I always used to tell to those who are interested in trying to come into PhD that I always told that PhD is not only about the title and you will earn a handsome package after completing your PhD, because it's all about research. Until unless you love to do research, or it is not your passion to do research, you should not think about a PhD for the second time, even for the first time. Because it is not about that you simply will finish your PhD and simply in India you will simply finish your PhD and you will immediately get a job, because there is a lot of job crisis is there, and so you need to wait for a long time. So that is the thing. But yes, students often get motivation by simply looking others that he will do PhD and this girl is doing PhD, so I should also go for that one. I will earn the doctor title. Everyone will call me with doctor, and this person has a PhD, and so it is not about only the PhD and everything, because you are contributing to the society. You are specifically in this social studies and the social sector. It will take your life. It will take your life in that sense that after completing your PhD, this will be your rest of your life, the PhD and research and everything. Mm-hmm. So until unless you are in love with your research, you are not passionate with your research, I will not encourage to anyone. So I always tell those people who often ask me, sir, I'm inspired by you, so I will come to PhD and finish it. I simply told him that two questions. The first question is that do you love research? If yes, then yes, please do come. Second, the question is that do you have patience? If no, sir, I do not have patience. Then I just simply no. If both of this question answer is yes, then please do come PhD. Otherwise, do not come, because it needs a lot of patience, because it needs a tremendous review. I can never see that a lot of frustration there, because in a one type of research and one topic you have been studying for the next 5 years, or you will be researching on the next 5 years. So it will take a lot of time. It needs a lot of patience to you to continue with it. So if you do not have that much of patience, you should not come to PhD. So that is the means answer to the early career scholar.
So that's the reality. And now let's talk about some positive sides. So you know that the course or the tuition fee for PhD can go to lakhs. And if you are thinking about doing it in a foreign country, it could go to crores. So that's not affordable and not pocket friendly for a lot of students, especially from the marginalized section who wanted to continue their PhD journey. So sir, what are the scholarships, or how can a person secure a fully funded PhD in India? And also if you can have a knowledge about doing a PhD internationally and know about few scholarship or opportunities, can you tell our audience about it?
Yes, indeed, because first thing is that you need to understand that what is the area of your research and how would you like to see yourself in next 5 years of your journey, 6 years of your journey. And the most important part is that it is not about the scholarship, but what I believe is that the field of your research. For example, if you are doing research in the science field, which country will be best for you? If you would like to research in the social sector, which country or which specific university will be best for you? It is more about what I believe, that it is more about the university and the context specific demand. Right. And secondly is that a particular scholarship you can, whoever they motivated for the PhD, they can simply put an Excel file and just collecting the information regarding what are the available PhD scholarship that is being offered by different institutions or the other universities. The third point is that the connecting to a mentor. The mentor is very important, because we often see that we simply send random professor or random person in email that I am very impressed with the profiles and have a lot of citations in that particular field, so I'm interested. So these things should be rectified. So let's give clear guidance about that. How should I approach to a particular professor? Because specifically it is not in India. In abroad, you can see that for the PhD, first you need to approach your guide.
Yeah, that's the first step you need to do.
Exactly. So if it works, then you should go ahead with your PhD plan or proposal and then you will only be eligible to apply for your PhD. So that's the important thing. So that is the way that how would you approach to the guide and what are specific way to approach, because the way of approach is very important here, because if you approach differently and a very a very common way, it is not an interesting way. So there will be fair chances of being rejected. So that is a part. And the important part is that not it is. I just told you that it is not about the 5 years of completing and finishing PhD and the journey will going to be an aim, but rather to how would you like to visualize yourself after 5 years of journey. And so then after completing your means selecting your guides, how will you means develop your PhD proposal along with your guide. So these are some basic steps for a PhD scholar or whatever. If anyone is also interested in postdoctoral fellowship, the same thing, the same pattern that I have followed so far. So I always would like to suggest to the other people or the audience of the developing world.
What were the techniques you were incorporating in your research, like when finding, let's say, a fellowship in Taiwan? Because we don't know often, like, what are the opportunities available for us around doing a PhD or maybe a research work. So what was your strategy, how you were collecting information?
I simply put an Excel file. What I honestly speaking, I simply made an Excel file, and what are the different kinds of scholarship. And for example, I can tell you that York University in Canada there is a fellowship, banking fellowship is there. For USA there is a Fulbright fellowship is there. For Germany there is a Humboldt fellowship.
Yeah.
And for Taiwan there is a Taiwan fellowship. So these are some available fellowship. I simply put into Excel file, and based on that I have chosen that okay. So first I will go for this one, because you should not approach multiple fellowships at a time, but rather you should be very selective. So what I approached, that I first targeted to this Taiwan fellowship, and then I prepare the Taiwan fellowship. I carefully check their websites and what are the demands they're asking for, how they are preparing the proposal, because the proposal is very important. Because we often see that students does not care about the way of writing and the way of proposal. For example, there are specific formats to writing proposal. If we go to that Fulbright fellowship, you can see that in the web page of the Fulbright fellowship, there is a specific format for submitting proposal. If we not follow that specific format, so there will be a fair chances of being rejected. So that is the thing. So then I contacted with one of my guide, that is Professor Chuang. He is from National Young University. So that is important. And for the PhD and postdoc, both of them, it is important to secure an university as well as the professor, because even you can see that there are many fellowships which does not require a particular host institutions or a particular mentor. But I always strongly suggest to the other people that you should always be prepared with your host institutions as well as your mentor.
Even in India as well, sir?
No, it is not mandatory for in India, but in abroad, for example, in Taiwan, in Canada, in Germany, in USA, it is mandatory to have. For example, in Taiwan fellowship, it is not mandatory one, because if you are selected, so then you will have get an opportunity to select the host institution as well as the mentor. But you can see that Fulbright and Humboldt and the Banting fellowship, they do not offer you this kind of choice. But however, I was pretty sure about it that I will definitely go for the host institutions as well as a mentor, because why it is important? Because it will have a very good chance of being selected, because they will see that this candidate is very serious and he or she has already secured a host institution and he has already prepared well with his or her research plan. So these are some important factors for preparing for anything, for either PhD or the postdoctoral fellowship.
Summarizing this, sir, any final words for the audience? Could be in your inputs or maybe your guidance, or any valuable input would be welcome from your side.
Okay, so first thing is that I always interact with the students that take the failure as a professional way, not a personal way. That's the primary thing. And secondly is that you may not be always motivated, you may not be always energetic person, you may not be always a very strong person, it happens. We may encounter failures in our life. We may not be motivated for the entire week or entire day. It happens. We are a human. We are not a robot. So it happens. But after the failure, how we respond it back. So that is an important thing. That's the important thing. And what I believe is that the power of visualization is very important. So I have seen in myself that, honestly speaking, how would I look myself in next 5 years? That's important. Planning is very important because each and every day before taking my going into my bed, I always have take an appraisal to myself that what did I do in this entire week or in this particular day, and I always love to plan early. For example, for the next day, what I will do for the next day in my professional area, not in my personal work, or a professional one.
So this has been incredibly insightful conversation. What stand out is building a career in social sector is not just about degree or job. It's about developing the right mindset, skills and commitment to people. And thank you so much, sir, for sharing your journey, your insights and your guidance with us. And to our listeners, if you found this helpful, do share it with someone who is trying to find their path in this field. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Pritam.